We want to start at number 1, don't we? There you go. Okay, so first thing we're going to talk about is the characters of each graph, characteristics. Your test will have 4 graphs on it. We are doing a lot more. We are going to do 12. I want to go over all the basics for each type just so you have a better understanding of them. So we're going to review this in depth. Okay, so characteristics of y equals sine x. Well, these are the things I'm going to need you to write down on each and every one of your graphs. Okay, you'll have a box like this. Fill it out. We need amplitude. I'm not happy with that writing. I'm going to write it better. Sorry. Amplitude. This is a basic sine, so the amplitude is 1. Period is going to be 2 pi. Horizontal shift, you will have none. Okay, this is because I don't have anything added or subtracted to the x. Vertical shift, again, none. Nothing is added outside. All right, and then if it rotates, you would place that down below this. Okay. Now, that being said, we're going to go over here and graph this guy. Okay, we are going to have to change colors. Remember, you'll get bonus points if you use colors. Okay, so I go out and mark my furthest tick mark with a 2 pi. Half of that is pi, half of that is pi over 2. And then 3 of the first tick marks, which is 3 pi over 2. Now we mark our negatives. And yes, you will have to mark all of these. I will expect your graphs to look very much like mine. That's why I'm going through the hassle of doing this with you. Okay. Now, since my amplitude is 1, I'm going to mark this 1 and this negative 1. All right, now I'm going to change colors. Sine starts at 0, 0 and moves up to amplitude. And this is the basic shape of our sine and cosine function. All right, this is how this works every single time, with a few minor exceptions. Okay, now that I've plotted my points, I'm going to rough in my line. Now remember, always give me a little extra, right? So I know you know which way it was going, like that. That one goes down. Whoa, that's... Okay, my sketch was just not the best. Oh, no, I am off. I thought that didn't look right. I apologize. So, we're going to go through and erase. I skipped a point there. Naughty me. I knew it wasn't working right. I forgot that point right there, and then I shifted on. Okay, there we go. All right, so... Oh, so much smoother. All right, that is the sine function. All right, now we're going to start applying some shifts and period changes and all of that. So this has an amplitude change. It has an amplitude change. It has a period change and a horizontal shift. So, whoops, it's still in highlighter mode, sorry. That was a black highlighter, I know, strange. Okay, amplitude is 2. period is 2 pi divided by b, which in this case is pi. Those cross out, and I am left with a period of 2. All right, my horizontal shift is plus, flip the sign, the pi over 2. That, over b, which is pi. Okay, so this means that the 2 pi's are going to cross out. Let me change to red for the crossing out. And that's going to leave me with just 1/2. Okay, and my vertical shift is 0. And it's not rotated. Okay, so now that we've got that, we're going to go over there and we're going to mark our tick marks. So we have a period of 2. So 2. Half of that is 1, half of that is 1/2. 3 of those is 3/2. Now I mark the negatives. -2, -1, -1/2, -3/2. Now my my amplitude is 2. So that becomes -2. Whoops, that is definitely not 2. Right. Oh, I didn't make that in half either, did I? Let's get rid of all that. Come on. There we go. Okay. Better. That's 2. All right, switch colors. Plot my points. This is a sine function, means starts in the middle at 0, 0, up to amplitude, 0, down to negative amplitude, and 0. Going the other way, I go to negative amplitude, 0, amplitude, 0. Okay, now I have to apply my horizontal shift. My horizontal shift was 1/2. Positive 1/2. So I am going to shift in the positive direction 1/2. Notice 1/2 is a tick mark. So that means this guy is going to come over here. And this guy is here. All right. Try to get you plenty of space so you could shift this and not fall off the edge of your paper. Okay, I'm putting little dotted lines so I see that I have applied a shift here and which direction it goes. Okay, so horizontal shift of 1/2, everything else, no vertical shift. Now I'm ready to draw my line. Done blue, green. Okay, if we're stuck with red. Going through the green dots, give myself a little extra on my beginnings and ends of my graph. Just to show I know where it's going. Okay, there's my 2 full periods of these graphs. All right, now let's look at this one. All right, again, I have amplitude. This change is a 1/2, but notice that negative. So I write down here, rotated. The negative means it's rotated. My period is going to be 2 pi divided by the 4 that's on the x, which gives me pi over 2. My horizontal shift is 0. My vertical shift this time is plus 2. All right, now I come over here again. Whoops. All right, now I'm going to come over here. Where was I? Okay. mark tick marks. I have, what was my period? My period was pi over 2. All right, half of pi over 2, I multiply the denominator by 2. So I get pi over 4. Half of that is pi over 8. And I need 3 of those. 3 pi over 8. Shift over here, negative pi over 2, negative pi over 4, negative pi over 8, negative 3 pi over 8. My amplitude is 1/2. Okay, now, there we go. This is a sine function. So I'm going to plot at 0, 0. Now, remember it's rotated. I go to A, not just amplitude. A. A is negative 1/2. So I actually am coming down here first. Right? And now I maintain my roller coaster shape. Okay. Now remember I had a vertical shift of 2. No horizontal, but a vertical of 2. So we're going to apply the vertical shift of 2 units right now. Well, that's, is it plus 2? Plus 2. So I'm going upwards 2. So each of these, recognize this was 1 unit, which means 2 is going to be up here. Okay, so that's merely where the zeros shift. Sorry, my hand is still on the platen. There we go. All right, the half has to go above that. Then I'm back to the 2. And then I drop half and back to the 2. The other direction, I'm down here at negative 1/2. So I drop, go back to 1/2 and up and then back down. There we go. All right, so now we draw in our line. And there we go. This is negative 1/2 sine. Notice that it's now flipped. Instead of starting at 0, I'm going to highlight this. So instead of starting at 0 and going up, it goes down. Okay, this is because of the negative. A positive would have gone like that. But that's not what we have, is it? We have a negative. Okay. Moving on to the next page. I've split this study guide into 2. Okay, this is the study guide for Chapter 10b, all the graphing of sines, cosines, tangents, cotangents, secants, and cosecants. Okay, so. Oh, why am I starting on number 4? That is not. This is for the free response. The multiple choice section I will also do separately. All right, this is a cosine graph. Our first step is to analyze the graph. We have the same things we're looking for. And highlighting black again. Sorry about that. All right, so my amplitude is 1. My period is unchanged, so it's 2 pi. My horizontal shift is non-existent. It's a 0. And my vertical shift is also 0 because this is the basic cosine function. All right. Now, I mark it 2 pi, pi, pi over 2. 3 of those is 3 pi over 2. Negative 2 pi, negative pi, negative pi over 2, negative 3 pi over 2. Okay, my amplitude is 1, so I have a 1 and a -1. Plot my points. Cosine always starts at A, which is up here, and then down to 0, and then down again to -1, and back up to 0, and then to 1. Maintaining the roller coaster pattern, I have a 0, I have a -1, I have a 0, and I have a +1. All right, so now I'm going to draw my line. So I give it a little extra space. So that's your basic cosine function. Remember to leave tags at the ends of your graph, both in the positive and the negative, to show you know what you're doing. All right, let's look at this one. Now we have some shifts and period changes and all that fun stuff. All right, so we're going to pick this thing apart. We do have a change in period. That's a period, amplitude, and then the shift, horizontal shift. Okay, so amplitude. One of these days I'll remember not to leave it on highlighter. Amplitude is 2. Period is 2 pi over pi over 2. Well, I can kind of see what that does, but what we're going to do so you can see it is this becomes 2 pi, and then if I flip the denominator and multiply, the pi's cross out, and I end up with 2 times 2, which is 4. Okay, my H shift is pi over 4 over pi over 2. Again, I'm going to flip and multiply. So I have pi over 4 times 2 over pi. So the pi's cross out. 2 over 4 leaves me with 1/2. And it's a negative in there, so it's a plus 1/2. Okay, my vertical shift is 0. Yes, you do have to write the vertical shift. Even though it's 0, you only have 3 graphs, and not even all of them will have, in fact, I don't think any of them will have both the vertical and a horizontal. I tried to keep it a little more simple for you. Okay, so let's look at this graph. All right, our period was 4, and our amplitude, was 2. There we go. Our period is 4. So we have 4, 2, 1, 3. Oh, that makes life easy, doesn't it? -1, -2, -3, -4. I had an amplitude, I believe, of 2, right? So if this is 1, pardon, allergies are getting to me, not sleeping well. And then that would be 2. 1, -2. Now you can mark it at the given tick mark, that's fine. 2 is 2, and then just draw yourself an intermediary, right? So you could just go tick, put a tick mark right there, and turn that number 1 into a 2. That would be fine also. Okay, so now we've got everything marked. We're going to draw our initial points. This is a cosine function, so it starts at A. Remember, A was 2. And then we go to 0, and then -A, 0, and A. Go the other way. Stopped, it goes down to there, and then to -A, 0, and back up to A. Okay, now we have a horizontal shift of 1/2. 1/2 is half a tick mark. So we're going to shift this half a tick mark in the positive direction. So this 2 way up here shifts over half a tick mark. All right, and this low point does also. We just shift everything half a tick mark in the positive direction. Okay. And now we've got our 2 sets of points. Remember, we're using the green points. There we go. All right. So one more cosine function, and we're going to pick apart the equation right now. All right, so notice the negative. This is -2. That negative is going to give me a rotation. So remember, amplitude is always positive. Okay, so the amplitude is 2. The period is 2 pi divided by 2. So it's just pi. My horizontal shift is 0. My vertical shift is +3. So this thing's going to get shifted up 3. So we need to make our vertical tick marks, our y-axis, fairly small, so that when we shift it up 3, we don't end up writing over the graph above. All right, now remember the negative. That meant rotated. All right, so put down our tick marks. Our period was pi. So I have pi over 2, pi over 4, multiplied by pi over 3, pi over 4s. Okay, do the negative. Negative pi over 2, negative pi over 4, and 3 of those is negative 3 pi over 4. Okay, now remember what I said. We want to make our tick marks fairly small. And our amplitude is big. It's actually 2. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that into 1 and this into 2. See, my 0 is going to shift up 3. So my zeros are going to be up there. So I still have to go another tick mark above at least. And you may have to do this on the test. You might have to add into your... There we go. That's a really bad looking 5. There we go. Let's try it again. All right. So now the bottom is actually shifting up also. So I don't have to go nearly as far in the negative direction. All right. Plot my points. So this is a cosine. So it starts at A, which was 2. To 0 to -2 to 0 to +2. Alrighty. Okay, but now we have to shift this up 3. So my zeros are coming up here to 3. Okay, my maximums are going to go all the way up to 5. So it's going to be up here. I'm actually going to have to shift down a little. There we go. 5, which means pi also will go up to 5. As will my 0. There we go. The minimums will also come up 3 units, which actually brings them up to 1. And there we go. All right, so now get out our trusty purple pen and we're going to okay. Ba-dump. All right, that's our cosine. Okay, I'll explain that. All right, now we are shifting off into cosecant. So we're first going to graph a base function of just cosecant x. No period change, no amplitude change, no shifts, nada. This is the parent function. All right, now, with the secant and cosecant, you have to tell me what your underlying function that you're going to graph is. So in this case, my underlying function is y equals, cosecant is associated with sine, so just y equals sine x. Now, I know that my amplitude is 1. My period is still 2 pi. All right, now I have a horizontal shift of 0 and a vertical shift of 0. Okay. Sorry. Mark our tick marks. This is our standard. So we have 2 pi, pi over 2, 3 pi over 2. And then I have minus 2 pi, minus pi over 2, minus 3 pi over 2. All right, my amplitude is still 1, so I have 1 and negative 1. Now, I have to lay down the points for my underlying function of sine x. All right, so sine starts at 0, 0, and I have my roller coaster shape from there on. All right, so there's my roller coaster shape. Now, remember with these, we lay down an asymptote at the zeros after your horizontal shift. Now, I have no shift, so I can do it right now. So I'm going to lay down asymptotes right through these zeros. If you do it in a separate color, you don't have to make it dotted. If it's all one color, you have to make it dotted so it becomes obvious. All right. Now, we're basically done, okay? We're just going to sketch in. We come down the asymptotes, swing out, and catch the one value. For the minimums, you go from the bottom. For the maximums, you come from the top. And there we have it. That is a cosecant graph. All right, so let's look at this one. We now have period, amplitude, and horizontal shift. So remember what I said. We're going to lay down exactly what our underlying function we're going to be graphing is. So this has to include amplitude and period change. That's the underlying function I'm going to graph. All right. The amplitude in this case is 3. The period is the same as in sine and cosine, 2 pi over 2 pi. That is 1. Okay, horizontal shift is going to be a negative pi over 2 over 2 pi. Okay, to see how this works, I'm going to flip and rotate, flip and multiply. Okay, so I get this equals negative pi over 2 times 1 over 2 pi. I'm pretending that 2 pi is 2 pi over 1, which it is. So now when I simplify this, I get rid of the pi's, and my period is negative 1/2. You don't want to forget the negative we've been trying to remember to carry through all of this. Oh, I have equal signs twice. Well, that's kind of silly, isn't it? Not sure why that one doesn't work. All right. There we go. All right, and our vertical shift is 0. Whoops. Still in black. There we go. Or red. Vertical shift 0. Oh, wait. Remember, it was negative. So this is rotated. All right. Period is 1. Amplitude is 3. So we come out here and we mark our tick marks. 1, 1/2, 1/4, 3/4. Negative 1, negative 1/2, negative 1/4, negative 3/4. My period, or my amplitude, I apologize, was 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Negative 3, technically. Okay. So now I've got my tick marks. All I have to do is I'm going to lay down the points for my underlying function. All right, this is a sine. So it starts at 0, 0, and then goes to A. Being rotated, A is negative 3. So it's going to look like this. Maintaining my roller coaster shape. And there we go. But I have to apply my horizontal shift before I can apply my asymptotes. So I'm going to do that next. My horizontal shift was negative 1/2. So I'm going to go backwards half a tick, 1/2. But notice 1/2 is 2 tick marks. See? 1/2 is 2 tick marks. So I have to be careful and do 2 full tick marks in the negative direction, which means like this guy comes over here. And this guy is going to come all the way over here. And we've got this one, and then we have that one. Now I've shifted all my mins and maxes, so I have to shift. When I shift my zeros, notice they're 2 tick marks away from each other. So basically they go unchanged, right? It's just that like this one is actually shifting to right there. And this one is shifting. So these are all shifting, but what you have to realize is you're actually shifting all the way over here. So you're welcome to use that one. You can also recognize you'd be shifting things off from out here, but it's your choice. All right. Okay, so now I've shifted. Now I'm going to draw my asymptotes. So right through the blue zeros are going to be asymptotes. Okay. There we go. Now, we're going to graph our function. We come... Okay, that was a mistake. I apologize. There we go. That should not have gone through that line. I apologize. Through the zero, ding dong, and I'm talking to myself. Okay. Now I'm going to draw my little graphs. So I come up. Whoops. I'm catching the blue points, not the red points. There we go. Remember, I need a total of 4 of these little pieces. So I have to scoochie over here. Oops, that meant I needed an asymptote right there. And I have to make sure I catch this guy. All right. So there we have it. Rotated, shifted, change in amplitude, change in period. All right, last one for this recording. All right, our underlying function, y equals negative 3 sine 2x. And then it's vertically shifted down 2. Okay, so I have an amplitude of 3. It's rotated again. I have a period of 2 pi over 2. So it's just pi. I have a horizontal shift of 0. And a vertical shift, you'll need to write a little smaller than I am, of negative 2. All right, period is pi. Pi over 2, pi over 4, 3 pi over 4. And now we're doing the negatives. Negative pi, negative pi over 2, negative pi over 4, negative 3 pi over 4. Okay. Sorry, I need to swallow. Okay. My amplitude was 3. I have a vertical shift of negative 2. So I'm going down 2. So I'm going to make fairly small tick marks. So I'm going to do a 1, making my 3 just about where the arrow is. This one's a little longer arrow, so there we go. All right. Step 1, lay down the points for our underlying function. Didn't get my fingers balanced on the thing before I started moving. All right, so I have an amplitude period, so it's a sine function. And I've got sine starts here, but being rotated, it's going to go down to negative 3, 0, 3, back to 0. And here, to maintain the roller coaster shape, I go up to 3, 0, negative 3, 0. Okay. Now, that's my underlying sine. I can't graph this until I do horizontal shift. There isn't one. So now I can go ahead and lay down my asymptotes right through the zeros. Okay, now I'm going to be shifting this. So no, we do it after. Yeah, we're gonna always do our shift. All right, we have a vertical shift of negative 2. So my maximum comes down to a 1. And my minimums go down to negative 5. So I have negative 4 and I have negative 5. Negative 5, so negative 4, negative 5. All right, back to my green color for my dots. This comes all the way down to negative 5, as does this one. There we go. Now we're going to graph our figure. Well, I think I need some more asymptotes down here. Okay. I come up, swing out, catch my point, and go back down. Okay. Up here, oops, it's not kind of square line like that. Silly me. All right. There we go. That is your cosecant graph. Okay, this lecture is long enough for right now. I'm going to split and do a second half in a moment. What did you... Oh, okay.